Hi, everybody. So I'm on a mission to mobilize an army of the people who love the outdoors to make a difference while they play, to give them those tools. And I need your help to do it. I'm going to start on the Appalachian Trail, and this is back in 2004. And I'd been walking for about 3 months at this point and came to these rocks in Pennsylvania. The running joke on the AT is that the Boy Scouts come out every night and sharpen these rocks. And it's pretty true, they're sharp, and I've fallen 13, 14 times. When I was here, it was raining, and I was pretty miserable. Well, I fell again, and in frustration, I picked up one of these rocks and I chucked it at a tree as hard as I could. And as I looked at the tree and started to cry, realizing that I had killed this tree, I felt like the lowest person on earth. Like I couldn't be doing anything more selfish in the world. And so I vowed in that moment that I would make a difference with my time outside, that I would spend my life where I knew I wanted to be outdoors, but I would do it for the good of the world or the good of others. And so I stood up, I kept walking, I walked for 3 more months and finished the AT. And went and worked in wilderness therapy for quite a while, taking kids with drug problems or alcohol problems, family issues out to see the experience of climbing a mountain and the self-confidence that can build. But after a few years of doing that, I took a plane to Quito, Ecuador, and from there a bus to the tiny town of Papachacta, which is right on the equator, and at the foot of the Tunguragua volcano. And from there I walked south, staying as close to the spine as I could, without relying on roads and without relying on mountaineering equipment. We got to the very southern point of the island of Tierra del Fuego. There's a lighthouse at the end of Cabo San Pio is what it's called, and so you can see the shadow of it there, and that's where we got. That was our goal on the expedition, which lasted for 667 days, just under 2 years. We covered 5 countries along the way, which are Chile, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Argentina. And we guessed that it was about 7,800 miles. We had a GPS with us that we'd turn on 2, maybe 3 times a day, and so we have straight lines in between the points, which give us an estimate, but really doesn't matter at that point. So along the way, we had incredible difficulties. We were off trail for over 50% of our route. I was diagnosed on the trip with roundworms, with flatworms, with pinworms, with giardia 3 separate times, with dysentery, and with typhoid fever. The challenge that we faced was pretty outrageous and definitely made it a journey that I didn't expect. We spent 4 days crossing this peat bog, or turba is what it's called. So every night we would set up our tents and water would slowly fill in, and we'd wake up at midnight shivering, it's 40 degrees or so, and we'd be in a pool of water in essentially small lakes. The other part of this trip, aside from the struggle, was the flora and fauna that we were exposed to. I got to see things like vicuña out on the pampa, like Guanaco. I got to see amazing things down in the Amazon when we would come off the range for side trips. This is a clip from deep in the Peruvian Amazon.
Here, deep in the Amazon basin, one of the rare bella. Crikey, what a fine meat. Look at him, isn't he beautiful? Oh.
So I was seeing these things all around me, amazing things that I never dreamed of seeing, and I wanted so desperately to learn how they fit together. I wanted to understand the ecology of what I was seeing, and I knew that it was this beautiful puzzle that fit together, but I didn't understand it. And so I came home, I went to Montana State University, got a degree within a year, and started tracking lynx and wolverines and grizzly bears around the mountains of Montana. And I went out to California, and I got to track spotted owls and capture them. I got to go to the Fort Peck Reservoir and work with endangered pallid sturgeon. And I realized from all of these experiences that not only was I doing what I love in the outdoors, not only was I having a blast out there, but I was making a difference while I was doing it. I was having the time of my life and contributing to real data collection. And I realized that I don't have any special skills to be able to do this. I have an undergrad in biology, and so many others could do this if they just were given the skills and the opportunity to do it. And so in 2011, I created an organization that does just that. It gives people the opportunity to connect through our mission, adventure, and science. Sorry, we're just catching up a little. As you look around the world, and others have talked about it today as well, it's very clear that there's not a corner of this planet that we don't need to know more about. Less than 5% of the oceans, the mountains, everywhere we look, there are needs that scientists have. I love this quote from Aldo Leopold that only those who know the most about it can really appreciate how little we know about it, and it's so incredibly true. There's not a manager who will tell you that they've made a decision with that they haven't made a decision with limited information, that with more information they could have made a better decision. This is a quick clip from a video on PBS now. And there is sound on there if we could get that up.
They're hikers, climbers, boaters, skiers. They're people who are going in every square corner of this planet. And anywhere they go, there's a scientist who needs them to collect data. Adventurers and Scientists for Conservation finds those athletes that are going to the most remote corners of the globe, and we find the scientists who need data from those remote corners, and we plug them together. We've just crossed 1,000 athletes that we've sent out collecting data for more than 110 scientists.
We're hoping that we'll find some diatoms.
We're on top of the Weisshorn, and we're going to start taking rock samples here down.
I would say that ASC is a matchmaker, that we're the dating service, we're the switchboard.
We had a fantastic trip, and it's just kind of fun to be able to put some science in the mix and to get some of these ice swarms collected for some studies.
So really early on, in 2011, we had one of our best discoveries, and it kind of got us launched. So Willie and Damien Benegas, who are North Face climbers, were going up Everest. They had seen and heard about the fact that there was a plant life up there. We shattered the record when we collected the highest known plant life on Earth. It was previously 17,500 feet or so, and we collected a sample from up at 22,000 feet. And what we were looking at when we collected this sample was not the moss itself that was collected, but rather the fungus that grows symbiotically with that moss. And so it's the same family of fungus that has been found in the thermals in Yellowstone. It's in drought and desert conditions. It's in frost-rich conditions all over the world. And so how amazing is the application here? If we can put this into crops, if we can have agricultural material not need to be genetically modified because simply having a fungus grow symbiotically with it will allow it to grow in different conditions all over the world. Amazing applications for the discoveries that folks are out there all over the world now making. So this is Abby Barros, who works at the Marine Environmental Research Institute. And we have a project with her that you guys can do right here in Chicago. You can do it in the Great Lakes or the oceans whenever you visit the oceans. It's as simple as scooping up a liter of water and putting it into some type of collection device and sending it off to Abby. And what we're looking at with these samples are the microfilament plastics, the microplastics that come from the breakdown of plastic bags. They're coming from face scrubs that you guys are using, and they have little nurdles in them that is actually what you feel when you're rubbing it on your face, what makes it hard. And those go into the waterway, and they are entering the oceans, they're entering the Great Lakes. And what's the most astonishing part about this is that in 85% of all the samples that we've collected, there's plastics. Think about that. 85% of your oceans, 85% of the Great Lakes have plastic in them. And that's if you picked up a random sample. That's shocking. That's really, really sad. Another project you can do right here in Chicago, Great Lakes Banded Gold Project. We work with a woman named Julie Ellis from Tufts University on this one. You can go out as you're on your run along Lake Michigan. You can look for banded gulls. If you see any with those little black rings on them, please take a photo. Try to get a GPS point. Your iPhone will take a GPS point. Send those into us. There's over 10,000 banded gulls that we've been tracking all around the world, mostly focused on the East Coast. All around the world, people in just every continent, and just about every place on Earth, are collecting data for us. We've sent more than 1,300 expeditions out at this point, collecting data for over 120 different scientists and managers, and it all comes down to the time, the millions of dollars that we have been able to save the research community by employing the unique abilities of these people, and the access to these places that so many scientists can't get to on their own. Not every scientist is like Francis and can go climbing in these remote places. So we want to make that partnership happen for folks. You don't have to be a Mount Everest climber to be an outdoor enthusiast or to be a great adventure scientist. We take kids up. This is a group from West Oakland Middle School that we just took to the Desolation Wilderness outside of Lake Tahoe. These kids were responsible for the first ever locations of pika to be recorded in the Desolation Wilderness. Pika are the smallest member of the rabbit family. They're an indicator species for climate change. We bring military veterans out on trips. We're bringing businesses out on trips, people who want to have team building exercises for their businesses. What greater way than to contribute to the conservation of the areas that you're going to go explore. We set up wildlife cameras quite often. This is from one on the Olympic National Forest. This is a bobcat that spent about 10 hours in front of one of our camera stations. Extremely diligent. We were focused on finding pine marten during this study, and I couldn't show you a video of a pine marten because we didn't find any. And the reason we didn't find any is because they're likely not there anymore. And so now the biologists from the Olympic National Forest are able to take our study effort, which was supervised by them. In each case, it's direct interactions with the scientists. Our athletes are interacting with them on sometimes even a daily basis. But they've now been able to take steps to list the pine marten, the coastal pine marten, in the Olympic National Forest under the Endangered Species Act because of this project. Another huge success for us. One of the projects that I'm most excited about coming up this year is the American Prairie Reserve. So this is an effort to make the largest protected area in the lower 48 states out in eastern Montana. To put it in perspective, Yellowstone National Park is 2.2 million acres. This is going to be 3.5 million acres. This is an area where when Lewis and Clark came through, they talked about more grizzly bears than anywhere else on their journey. They talked about seeing bison as far as they could see covering the landscape. They talked about 30,000 elk. They talked about amazing biodiversity in the area. And this is what they're trying to restore in this area. And so ASC is now responsible for the citizen science effort on the reserve. And I hope that some of you might want to come spend 2 weeks to a month to 3 months with us out there, participating in these 9 different projects that we have there. Again, you don't need to be one of the world's greatest athletes to get involved with us. All you have to do is go outside and explore, whether it's on the Great Lakes or some trails somewhere else in Illinois. I hope you'll come to our website, adventureinscience.org, and check us out. Thank you.